Right, so this is a continuation now. We're looking at something new, and I am introducing here rules in relation to something called square roots, which we have seen before, but also in relation to a situation where we might end up with an indice which is a fraction, and hopefully that won't throw us today. But actually, you will find that once you study the rules, practice them, they do actually make sense. So yesterday, what we had started looking at was the idea that any number that has an indice which is 0 will give you a value of 1. Okay, so if you pop in any number into your calculator, for example 9, and you press this button Xbox and 0, you will get a value here of 1. Okay, and this one you just need to learn off. Okay, there's no I suppose reason you need to worry about why that is the case, but just learn off any number multiplied or which has an indice to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So skipping down, we're going to have a look here, and I think that we covered this yesterday. We talked about the negative sign. So if I have 2 to the power of minus 5, write that as a fraction. That's 1 over 2 to the power of 5. And if I have 3 to the power of minus 6, that's 1 over 3 to the power of 3 to the power 6, as seen here. Okay, so what we're really interested in today is this, fractional indices. So it says this, consider the situation where we have 2 to the power of a half by 2 to the power of a half. Now, looking at the rule that we studied in the last recap video, if you have the same whole number or base number, then you could add the indices together. So that's 2 to the power of a half plus a half, which gives you 2 to the power of 1, which is equal to 2. Now, this is this because we know this fact, it can kind of tell us something about a square root. Remember a square root of 2. Every time I've explained a square root, I've explained it like this. The square root of 2 means it's whatever number multiplied by itself will give you the original number in the square root. So if I had the square root of 9, the square root of 9 would be what number multiplied by itself gives you the square root of 9, and the answer 3 multiplied by 3 would give you 9. So therefore the square root of 9 would be equal to 3. So you're using that bit of information here to try to figure out these indices, which are fractions. So if I know, I'm trying to find out what number multiplied by itself gives you 2 in the square root, well, all I have to do is go back here. 2 to the power of a half multiplied by 2 to the power of half will give you 2. So the answer here, 2 to the power, the square root of 2 is equal to 2 to the power of a half. Okay, so that's the first thing. And that's why when we are working with indices and we see straight away 2 to the power of a half or anything to the power of a half, we know that that straight away means we're dealing with a square root. Okay, so 2 to the, we'll say 9 to the power of a half means the square root of 9. 100 to the power of a half means the square root of 100. Okay, I hope that makes sense for people. Okay, if it doesn't make sense, well, rewind the video and start again. The next thing then is if I was looking here at the following. 5 to the power of a third multiplied by 5 to the power of a third multiplied by 5 to the power of a third. What does it mean? It means I have 5 to the power of a third plus a third plus a third. Why? Because of our indice rules that if I have the same base number or whole number, I can add the indices together. So I add them all together here, a third plus a third plus a third, I'll end up with 5 to the power of 1, which is equal to 5. Now this is something that might cause a bit of confusion, but hopefully we're okay. So if you think about it, going back to the meaning of a square root of 2, the square root of 2 means that whatever number multiplied by itself will give you just 2. And what we figured out is the number that multiplied by itself to give you 2 for working with indices is 2 to the power of a half. By 2 to the power of a half gives you 2. So now if I have to figure out the following. If I have to figure out what is what we call the cube root of 5, okay? In other words, there's a tree kind of hanging outside here there's a square root, and there's a 5. That sounds so confusing. But actually, if you think about it, what it really means, it means what number multiplied by itself and multiplied by itself again will give you the number in the middle, which is 5. So what number multiplied by itself and multiplied by itself again will give you 5? And the answer for that is, going back here, 5 to the power of a third multiplied by itself, 5 by the power third, multiplied by itself again, 5 to the power of a third, gives you an answer of 5 to the power of a third. So it's this number, 5 to the power of a third multiplied by itself again, will give you 5. So if I had something like a 3 hanging outside my square root, it means what number multiplied by itself again, and multiplied by itself again will give you 5. Okay. Maybe I'll have a look at just one example of that before we do any more. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll have a quick look here at an example. So if I had something like 4 to the power of 16, okay, and I was told, sorry, not 4 to the power of 16, we have 4 square root of 16, and I was told, work out the value for this, please. And so we have 4 root 16. So, in other words, what number multiplied by itself, and I'm going to write this out here in front of me so I actually know as well what it means. So, what number multiplied by itself, multiplied by itself again, and multiplied by itself one last time is the number in the root. Sounds very confusing, doesn't it? But if we look at this, this obviously will make sense, because what number multiplied by itself, if you take a gander at it, you can see here that 3 multiplied by 3 gives us 9, multiplied by 3 gives us 27, multiplied by 3 again gives us 81. That's no good. If we try 2, okay, would 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 give us the answer? So we have 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. So we have 4, 8, 16. That would give me the number in the root. So therefore, the answer for this one is actually just 2. Okay, so hopefully everyone's with me there. What we'll do is I'll have another go at another type of question there. And let's say, for argument's sake, I have 5 outside the root. And let's have a quick look maybe at one of the examples in the book. So I'm working off the same one you're working off of. So what if I have 5 outside and I have a square root and there's a 32? So this time the meaning would be, what number multiplied by itself again, multiplied by itself, and multiplied by itself would give 32. In other words, we need a number there multiplied by itself, and it's going to be multiplied 4 more times. So if you take a look at this, actually by trial and error, you should actually figure it out, because you could try different numbers, like, for example, 5 by 5 gives me 25, 25 by 5 is 125, so that's definitely not going to work. But what if I tried something like, for example, something smaller? If I tried 4, so 4 by 4 gives me 16, and 16 by 4 is 64. Geez, that's again way too big. So I'll have to try something which is much smaller. How about if I try 2? So again, 2 multiplied by itself, multiplied by itself, multiplied by itself, and finally one last time, because I have to have 5 2's. And when we look at it, what we'll see there is that 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, so that's 4, 8, and 8 by 2 is 16. And finally then, just there's a little bit of a lag there, lads, sorry on that. And finally multiplied by itself again, well, that definitely gives 32. So the number multiplied by itself 5 times will give us an answer there. So the answer there that fits in is 2. Okay, answer is 2. Hopefully that's not too confusing. I want to go back now to the book and see what else they have to say for us. So we are told, evaluate each of the following questions. We have 25 to the power of a half, we have 32 to the power of a fifth, and we need to work out the answers. Now, if you were told to work out 25 to the power of a half, like, it's not too easy to put that into the calculator. You should be able to use it without a calculator anyway. So straight away anyway, you're going to learn this off by heart, that 25 to the power of a half just means the square root of 25. Okay, that comes from this part up here that I covered in the start of the video. So, in other words, if 25 to the power of a half is equal to the square root of 25, the answer is going to be 5. If I have 32 to the power of a fifth, I can rewrite that as 5 to the power of a root of 32. So what I have then is, rather, it's the fifth root of 32, sorry, my apologies there, the fifth root of 32. And again, the number multiplied by itself again. In other words, what I just did, exact same question, the answer is 2. So that takes us as far as just simple indices where it's just like a half. We might have a fifth. We might encounter a third. So I'll swap over again now to this and see, have we got any examples here where there's a third? There isn't, but I'll write up one. So say for argument's sake, if I have, I'm told again to work out the value. If I have got in front of me, let's see, if I have the third root of 1000. If I had to get the third root of 1000, how would I get that? So again, we're thinking of what number multiplied by itself again will give me 1000. Now you're probably thinking about this like, okay, if we had 5, we would be 5 by 5 would be 25, by 5 again is 125. Clearly that's not going to work. You work your way upwards until you find that number. Now looking at 1000, what number multiplied by itself and multiplied by itself again? Clearly the answer is going to be 10. Okay, so the answer there, what number multiplied by itself gives you the value? The answer is 10. Okay, so that is how you solve these types of questions. So let's have a look here in the book. What types of questions are you going to have to do for me for homework? Well, we've already attempted question 1. Your work really is going to be on question 2 and question 3. So it says here, without using a calculator, evaluate each of the following. Now, the first 2 will be easy because you know the square root of any number is what number multiplied by itself gives you the number in the square root. So if I had the square root of 9, the answer would be 3. This one here is the third root of 27. So this is using the skills you've just learned, which is what number multiplied by itself again will give you 27. So that's your answer. Okay. So work your way up through the counting numbers. Is it going to be 1? Is it going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. We did this one as an example, so you can copy and paste that in and for practice. This one again, the fourth root, so what number multiplied by itself will give you 16, and so forth. Okay, so all of those hopefully will be okay. 64, what number multiplied by itself, and you do that again 6 times. Right, this table should be easy. We have an x value, so we've in other words our counting numbers 1, 2, 3 up as far as 10, and then we have x squared. The x squared here means that we're talking about a number multiplied by itself. So what number multiplied by itself will give you, or rather, when I take 1 and I square it, what will I get? The answer is going to be 1. What number will I get here when I square 2? 4. If you want to practice with your calculator, there's a button there for that. So 2, and you click this x squared button on your calculator and you'll get a 4. Square root, again, you can practice that in your calculator if you'd like. That is actually very possible to do that. But again, you should know what number multiplied by itself gives 1, what number multiplied by itself gives 4, etc. Now, this question, whoops, I'm after losing it there. Let's reload that page. Now, so we're almost there, guys. We're almost there in terms of the rules, and the next thing, and after all of this, would be scientific notation. and that's like stuff that you're seeing in other subjects. Let's see, where were we? Here. This is what I want to look at. So I'm going to zoom in on this. X to the power of 3. So again, you could choose to use your calculator for this if you'd like. And again, it'll be 1 cubed, 2 cubed, or you could just simply remember that it means 2 by 2 by 2 if we're talking about the cube value. You work your way up through that. Then the cubed root of x. So imagine if you had to substitute in the values here each time. So in other words, the cubed root of 1 is going to be the first one. So what number multiplied by itself and multiplied again will give you 1, all the ways up as far as 1,000. Okay, so hopefully that'll be okay for you. Up as far as question 4. So I'll post those questions up in the Google Classroom for you. Okay, that's it for today. And remember, we have a live lesson then on Monday where we can do the